What is going on, YouTube people? We got a little news today. We had talked about this about a month or so ago. CGC acquired JSA, and we were kind of in a holding period as to, what that. I mean, we knew what it would mean, but like, what were the details on all this? What would the label look like? What would the fees cost for all this nonsense? And today we have our answer, at least on the comic book side, but what they're doing on the comic book side will probably give us some context clues to what they are doing on the card side. For those that are not aware, CGC in the past would not authenticate an auto they did not witness. They had CGC Signature Series, which was a service where they would witness the autograph. So that means the CGC representative was standing there while your item was signed, and it would be labeled as such, whether that be at their offices or at a show or some other type of event. They would run these. They would not, if I went to a con and waited in line and had someone sign a book, say Jim Lee, for example, and did not go, and there was no CGC witness present, if I submitted that for grading, they would not authenticate the auto. But they acquired JSA for this very specific reason, to be able to authenticate these autos after the fact. Beckett already did this with CBCS. It was one of the things that CBCS had a major market advantage over CGC in, is that they would authenticate aftermarket autos that they did not witness. They would label them as such as well. They would label witness versus authenticated. So when CGC acquired JSA, this was a pretty big deal. When I interviewed Andy and Matt a while back, when they went through the label change, they had hinted that autograph authentication was coming. We just didn't realize it was going to be through the acquisition of a JSA. We thought it might be in-house. So what does the label look like? Let's start there. Let's scroll down a little bit here. They give us some full screen examples here. It is a nice little black and gold mix. I do not like Steelers colors, but here we sit. Here's a close-up view here. And right below it, right here, you can see what the Signature Series label looks like. Now, Signature Series label, they do note, is getting a slight refresh. It'll say CGC Signature Series across the top there. This is the new version of that label. No, it's a little small. Let me see if I can give you boys and girls a little zoom. There we go. So this is the new CGC X JSA label. So it looks... The thing I think they did a nice job with this label. I'll give them credit where credit's due. It looks like a CGC signature label, but it is different enough that if you know, that if you're looking at a wall of books at a Comic-Con and you glance up from 5 or 10 feet away, you're going to be able to tell the difference between these two labels. And I think that's really the key thing. But they're close enough that if you have a collection at home, it's not going to be super jarring from a CGC signature witnessed label. So that's kind of the nice thing there. An interesting twist that they are adding on, let me scroll down a little bit here, that they have never done before. And for comic book people, they're going to be like, what? Because in cards, we're kind of used to this. On the JSA authentication only, so this does not apply to CGC witnessed, which is a kind of a weird thing. They are, or they will, for an extra fee, grade the auto. So on this label here, we see the auto was graded. They put the auto grade on the back, like a CGC card label. So this is a little bit of a twist for comic folks. The fees for this are pretty reasonable. To get the autograph authenticated, it is $25 on top of whatever your submission fee is. So if it's going to be $50 to grade the book, it would be an extra $25 to have the auto authenticated. If you want the auto graded, it's another $20 on top of that. Now, auto grading, I have never been real big on it. If it has a 10 auto grade, cool. If it doesn't, it almost detracts from it. It's like pointing it out. It's like, hey, look at me. There's something wrong with me. And auto grades to me is one of those things that I feel like I could judge it myself just as well as paying someone to do it. Typical things that will knock an auto grade will be if it's streaky. That a lot of times will knock it. If there's any sort of like pooling, like if they hesitated while they were signing it. If it goes off, I'm going to say card, but in this case, it would be a comic. So if they have some big swoopy signature and they draw the line out, you know, underneath their name or whatever it is that they do with a little flourish, and that goes off the edge of the item. So in this case, a comic book or a card, that will usually knock the auto grade to an auto 9 if it goes off card. So you'll see things like that. If it's smeared, obviously, it would ding it. If it's fading, that would obviously ding it. If it's a good, clean auto, it's going to get a 10. And I just feel like that's something I could tell by looking at it. You know, if I'm looking at a Stan Lee autographed book, Stan Lee has a wide range of signatures. I've seen some of his that are really tight and nice, and I've seen some that could be a little bit streaky. I'm going to build that in when I'm looking at that book anyway. I'm going to, you know, this got a bad auto on it, you know, compared to one that sold for a good auto. You know, to me, I don't know that I need the auto grade thing. I do find it kind of odd that they are offering it on the JSA series stuff, but not the in-house signature series stuff. I wonder if that'll change after time. Maybe if it's popular, they will, because I'm sure CGC would love to make an extra $20 every time someone signs, but who knows? That would not be something I would be taking advantage of personally. I don't think a lot of people will. Maybe they will. I don't know. That's just not something that's up my alley. The other interesting dynamic here is how this all plays out on the secondary market. Listen, personally, I am going to, if there was an autographed book that I wanted, and I should state, you know, just for my own personal preference, I am not a big autographed comic book guy. I would prefer the cover unaltered by a signature. I want to see the artwork, and I want it in its, I guess, purest form, if that's what you want to call it. I would be open to autographs, but I don't want it on a key book. You know, I don't want a copy of X-Men 1 with a Stan Lee signature on it. I would, if presented with both copies, I would take the unsigned version 99 times out of 100. I would take the unsigned version. I don't want a signature on the cover of my book. Now, there are certain, if I did want a signature, I would select certain books for it. For example, let's say, because I've looked at this before, I would like to have at some point in time a Haley Steinfeld auto Spider-Gwen cover. In that case, I would look at some ultra modern variant that is not super expensive, that has a cool image that are a dime a dozen, or you know that is common to find. For example, there's one called, I think it's Spider-Gwen 1 animation variant. The art style in the front is very reminiscent of Into the Spider-Verse. That would be something I would want signed by an actor or actress, something along those lines, or even an artist in that case. For example, if I wanted a Jim Lee book signed, I am not going to go out and get some ultra rare, expensive Jim Lee book to have him sign. I'm not going to get newsstand whatevers or an X-Men 11 Pressman variant. I'm going to just go get an X-Men 1 that there's 50 billion of. And if I wanted one signed, I would go that direction with it. Cards, a little bit of a different story, but that's kind of my general take on comics. I prefer them unsigned. That's just me. I actually think a lot of people feel that way in general. So that is where we currently sit. I think the pricing is relatively reasonable. $25 to authenticate an auto doesn't seem that bad. Now we don't know if cards will be priced the same, but I can't imagine that it would be any different. I don't know why a card would be more than $25 to get the autograph authenticated when the process is virtually the same exact thing. So I would suspect that when they roll this out for cards, that it'll be at $25. I don't know that for sure. That's just me purely guessing. And I'm also assuming the label is going to be similar to this as well. Their CGC Signature Series label actually looks kind of like this already. It's more of a blackish goldish than it is a true yellow. So I have to imagine the CGC X JSA on the card side will be a similar style label to this. as well. So though they have not, they do note in here that cards are coming soon. The other interesting one, and I can't wait to see what this case looks like. They had mentioned concert posters, which I would assume would mean movie posters as well. I don't know. I don't know if there would be a limit on the size on those, because that would be massive. But I know there's a lot of people that collect signed posters of stuff. So to have a way to get those encapsulated and protected and to potentially hang on the wall would be interesting. I'll be curious to see what that would look like. It's not my shtick. I don't have any of that stuff. That's just a major space thing for me. But I have a feeling there will be a niche market for that. So that's all we got. Curious for your thoughts and comments. As always, down below. We will catch you boys and girls on the next one. Peace.